Hi there, welcome to the channel. This is a compilation of some of our previous Fallout 4 videos. If you're new, Oddities is a show where we take a look at locations in games to find tiny details, moments, and minutiae we just think are interesting. An appreciation for the mundane that someone still had to put thought into. We have a few shows on the channel, including Oddities, where we do the same thing for quests and narratives. Open Roads, where we take a look at the transitional areas in games you might often find yourself walking straight past. Observations, in which my co-host Millie looks at film and TV. And Opinions, a fun little project where we rank and rate some of the things we've found. All the intros and outros have been edited out of this compilation for your viewing pleasure. And, as always, grab yourself a tea or a coffee and sit back as we explore together. In the dry wastes of the Commonwealth, it's not easy to find a friendly face. But here, west of Boston, we have a family who've made their home beneath a transmission tower. Working the land, they fight for survival day by day, eyes now always peeled for the ill-intentioned. Today we're here at Abernathy Farm, one of the first settlements you can find in Fallout 4. Their cottage, retrofitted onto this old network of electrical towers, is quite snug and out of the way. You could walk right by it, if they hadn't hung up these lights here. Not particularly useful in remaining hidden from raiding parties, but perhaps they like to indicate a willingness to trade with passerbys. A bold gamble to make in the world of Fallout. Approaching from the east, we get a nice view of the farmland they've tilled into the radioactive earth. A campfire sits here out the front, likely for whoever is stationed on watch at night. I wonder if they take shifts, not wanting to be ambushed in the dark. They only seem to grow a limited selection of produce. Here we can find the humble tato plant. I'm not sure what properties have been affected by radiation, but regular tomatoes love the sun, and this place seems perfect for growing. The sun blazes down on us, not much shade to be found, save for a few jagged trees. Like everywhere we visited in Skyrim so far, this farm only has one cow, or Brahmin in this case. It trudges around its little pen here, a trough waiting to be filled with water or feed. There's no grass in the pen, so perhaps they control its diet. Or the grass in the surrounding lands isn't fit for consumption, perhaps affecting the radiation levels in its body, which in turn increases the chance of sickness should you consume any of its product. On the porch we have the workshop, enabling us to customize the settlement, but we'll keep looking at how we found it. Maybe we can give them some more substantial defenses later. The porch seems to work as a bit of a depot. These crates probably filled with the harvested potatoes, judging by the ones we find on top. Maybe these are waiting to be shipped to a larger settlement for caps, or to buy off hungry aggressors. I like to keep criticism to a minimum in these videos, but these piles of rubbish have always irritated me in Fallout 4. You'd think people would still try to keep their homes clean despite the apocalypse. Rubbish invites flies, rot, and disease, and you certainly wouldn't want it in your living space. Becoming ill could be a death sentence in a place like this. Inside we have a common area. Looks like the Abernathys have set up a dining room of sorts. A semblance of the nuclear family, hanging on by a thread. On the left the pallets have naturally formed a bench. Here they've stored their fuel, likely to power generators, only they've left them right next to these candles. I'm not sure this place will be standing much longer. Let's just move those a tad further away. To the right is all our food storage, potatoes and purified water placed upon some shelves. It's clear potatoes don't need to be refrigerated, perhaps a symptom of their mutation. Good thing too, because the fridge is in a bit of a state. I'm sure these beers are here for the end of the workday. After hours toiling under the sun, the Abernathys might crack some open as they sit down to dinner. At the back of the house is the main bedroom. Old mattresses scavenged from some dingy place. They don't look too comfortable, but anything beats the hard ground. It looks like they store their fertilizer here too, bolstering whatever nutrients are left in the scarred soil. I wonder if this is what the Brahmin is for, or if they trade or scavenge for it. Of course, ammunition to keep their weapons loaded. Always good to keep that stocked. Interestingly, there's a second bedroom over on the north side of the house with only a single bed. Maybe this is the guest bedroom, where they can house weary travellers or roaming traders who need a bunk for the night. There's a bathroom over here, for some reason. The bath probably still works if you boil some water, but I'm not sure this toilet is doing anything good. We're under that transmission tower, so the Abernathys brought this here. Maybe it's a long drop. Up the stairs we can find these balconies overhanging the structure, peering out over the surrounds. It's only on this side of the house, so perhaps bandits come primarily from this direction. We know there are some in Concord. The other direction is mostly feral ghouls and other creatures, not often known to shoot back. To the north of the house we have this tilled soil. Nothing is growing yet, so maybe it was only just seeded or harvested. It's a nice detail that they have multiple plots going at once. I wonder if the seasons have been affected by the bombs. Behind the house we have a melon plot. There's a water pump too, so the soil here might have a bit more moisture than the cracked ground out the front. It looks like this plot was a recent addition, with the fence almost complete, a few more parts lying here waiting to be constructed. I wonder if this project has been delayed with the loss the Abernathys suffered. We can find Mary's grave, the daughter of Blake and Connie, who perished in the latest raider attack. It's not clear if the marker is a cross due to the Abernathys being religious, or if it's just what they observed in historical texts they've come across. We know that old world religion still plays a role in this bleak future, with characters like Joshua Graham still familiar with the texts. It's not a leap to think that the Abernathys could be of some faith. They've actually managed quite well with this gravesite, constructing a sort of cairn with some stones. Further on we can come across this trailer. It's technically not on the property, but it's close enough to believe that the Abernathys have put it to use. Maybe it was a cubby house for their daughters in years past. On the other side of the house we can find these silos or storage tanks, maybe for holding grain or fuel. Their pipes run through the house and up to the top here. Perhaps they heat the house in some way. And that's pretty much Abernathy Farm itself. A nice little settlement. It's always good to meet people who won't instantly shoot at you, but it's not all rest and relaxation. Blake here has a task for us. We're to travel to the camp of the bandits that took his daughter from him and get her locket back. Welcome to USAF Satellite Station Olivia, an intelligence facility intercepting all kinds of traffic over the airways. Now it's being claimed by the very raiders that have been giving the Abernathys so much grief. There's a bunker here leading into the base, as well as a wooden structure that looks like it was constructed after the war. It looks like a shelter for the guards posted outside. We have a mattress and some chairs, as well as a toaster someone's jammed a screwdriver into. I wonder how that ended. They probably had the guards on rotation out here. Always at least one person on lookout, with some nearby that they could rouse should an attack occur. I suppose it would be difficult to get that news to the team in the bunker, behind the thick concrete walls. Up this ramp and towards the dish, we come across this room. It's quite empty, now a watchtower for the raiders. Pre-war, this could have been where they kept all kinds of maintenance tools to keep the array in good working condition. Inside the facility, we find the power still on. Likely designed to survive the nuclear barrage with backup generators that could last centuries. Ancient pipes run along the walls as we descend this staircase, probably pumping CO2 and other undesirable gases from within the structure. These walls are likely more than airtight. We're funneled into this reception area, a lone desk waiting for people to produce identification before descending deeper into the facility. You can feel that oppressive atmosphere of surveillance and security. It looks like this closet here housed all kinds of files and documents, surely classified to the highest degree. I wonder if these were transcripts intercepted by the station, all kinds of information hidden behind the words. Through a security gate we have this office. All the terminals are busted, but we can assume this was where the interceptions were recorded. The Fallout universe being quite analog, you'd imagine the officers would have had to manually scribe what they heard. 2 such officers lie on the ground before us, their bones still donning the uniform. I wonder if the bombs killed them, or if they starved within the bunker, fearing to enter the scorched earth above. Down the stairs, it seems this large room here was dedicated to the operation of the dish. We can see its roots running down from the roof here, and a myriad of terminals and instruments surrounding. I'd imagine they can rotate the dish down here to focus it on specific communications. Behind we have this locker room. I wonder if the engineers would come in here to change into their uniforms and get ready for their workday after clocking in. There's what looks like another storage room around the back here. It does have a desk tucked away at the back though. Maybe this is where they posted the poor intern. This room at the back is this huge storage area. We have all kinds of crates and boxes, maybe a janitor's area. We have this skeleton here with a broom amongst all kinds of cleaning products. I'm sure the instruments would have had to remain in perfect condition. Maybe this was a bit of a smoking area to have a short break. We have a radio here, and you can imagine the soldiers standing around in the corner having a chat while they listen to some tunes. On the other side of the facility, we have the most important room of all. A lot better than what we found at the Abernathys. Weirdly, there's a newsstand here to buy papers from. You'd think the people working here would already be in the know about the comings and goings of the nation. I wonder who delivers the paper to this high security place. And that's kind of the station itself. A very short dungeon, so it kind of fits nicely on the end of our Abernathy Farm exploration. In the world of Fallout, we often find ruins of scientific complexes, military installations, and other dark, precursory monuments to espionage, intrigue, and malpractice. And while it's fun to dig up those stories, it's easy to forget the simple places. Places of recreation, where you could go out for the night with your family or friends, forgetting the tumultuous world for a bit as you stared up at the silver screen. Today we're here at Starlight Drive In, one of the potential settlements in Fallout 4. There's no one living here when we find it, just a little colony of mole rats, as is common in the northwest of Boston. It sits on a turn-off of this road that runs under the train line. A giant Nuka Cherry advertisement indicating the entrance. Funny that the advertisement billboard is bigger than the one that would actually show what movie is playing. A little commentary never goes amiss in the Fallout universe. It's a shame we can't see the poster though. The projection building itself is this winged structure, one having fallen over the centuries. It's a snack bar as well. It looks like you could buy crisps, Nuka-Cola, cigarettes, cakes, and I guess coffee based on all the mugs. I don't see a coffee machine though. With the rounded nature of this room, you can imagine tons of people piling around to get their food and drinks. Maybe 3 or 4 workers racing about, listening to the radio. It's definitely an escape to small town Americana, away from the city and surrounded by this forest of trees. But of course, industry still looms in the distance. Around the other side of the building, it looks like you could bypass the service counter and just buy a Nuka-Cola from this machine here. Easier to convince yourself of the purchase when there's this level of convenience. And there's some telephones as well. Only 2 to service the whole complex, so you'd imagine there was a bit of queuing for calls. Unless you were fancy enough to have a car phone, of course. Inside, behind the counter, we have a broom cupboard with some tools and extra light bulbs. There's no indication of what's in these sacks here. Perhaps popcorn kernels? There's a door that leads out to the eastern wing. We can see some of the panelling has shifted, exposing the tangle of wiring that runs through the structure. And walking across, we can see that someone has built a little walkway here, likely post-war. This building does afford a bit of a view, and being able to get 360 coverage over your settlement is undoubtedly useful for fending off raiders or creatures of the wastes. And in the projection booth, we can find who probably constructed the ramp. A skeleton lies here, pistol in hand. Hard to say if this was the thing that ended them, or if the wasteland consumed them. They'd set up various traps as we ascended, so it's clear this person was a skilled survivalist, living out their post-apocalyptic days in this place, returning to hunker down in the tower at night. I wonder how long ago they perished. Above, we can find the huge projector hanging from the ceiling, a gargantuan thing that is rusted beyond repair. Funny that this metal husk would have brought joy to so many people, now sits dormant and dead, much like the world outside. The beauty of human ingenuity destroyed by the ugly side of it. We can find 3 great reels holding up a lantern. I wonder if this is 3 separate films or just one. I'm not sure how much one can store on a film reel in the Fallout universe. Outside the building there's these tables. The stools have long since been blasted away, but it shows that you didn't need a car to catch the movie. Sitting in this outdoor diner, people without their license didn't have to miss out. The drive-in itself is fairly empty, but the bombs dropped during the day, so I guess it makes sense. We have all kinds of cars, family carriers, trucks, convertibles, and even this tiny little thing. They're all parked next to these speakers. Tons of them are stationed about to ensure every customer could hear the film clearly. Of course, we have this crater in the centre filled with nuclear waste. It's hard to say exactly where this waste came from. It looks like rainfall might have made this indent in the earth, all of it pooling in the centre of the drive-in. Or perhaps there's an underground pipe that burst somewhere, or just a simple sinkhole. There are some traffic cones here, probably telling people to refrain from parking near the damaged section. Either way, this waste probably wasn't just sitting here all the time. Maybe it fell off the back of a truck that had come to watch the film, or someone lugged them here after the bombs fell for no particular reason. Another option could be the mole rats, I guess, collecting the barrels to make their nest. If you have any theories in the comments, let us know. The screen of the drive-in itself is in complete disrepair, panels hanging limply, barely clinging to the structure. Its shell is bent and twisted, but the foundations remain strong. Behind the screen we can find this shed, all kinds of tools for maintenance. There's a bit of a snack corner for the worker to sneak away and have a bite during their shift. Unless this was post-war and someone hunkered down here for a bit. I love this red paved walkway that leads us around to the next room, which, interestingly, looks a bit more like a living room. It's got a couch, fridge, barbecue, and a cot. The window's been boarded up, making it feel a bit like a safe room. Perhaps our friend in the projection room set this place up, should they need to hide. Atop the screen we have another awesome watchtower that peers over the surrounding land. From Concord to Lexington and Corvega, we can catch anyone trying to sneak up to the drive-in, or spot a trader traversing the roads. Whoever was on lookout up here last had this chair to sit on, kicking their feet up on the rail as they dragged on a cigarette and sipped their cola. Not much more to worry about than simple survival in this broken world. The last structure of the drive-in itself is a small shed which houses the workbench. With the bags of cement lying about, I believe this was a place that stored maintenance materials for the drive-in itself, likely trying to combat the growing sinkhole in the centre. Doing a roundup of the surrounds, we have this pond, fed by a pipe here. It's packed with dirt, so the pond is probably just fed by the rain now. There's what's left of a brick structure here, the interior having been eaten by the dirt. Someone camped out here, a charred pit the only indication of their presence. There's a roadside phone booth, blasted away by the bombs. And a derailed train that was carrying quarried stone, farming equipment, and these logs. and that's Starlight Drive In. A place of leisure and friendship, now still. A gravesite to the many who abandoned these cars. But it can be reborn, bringing safety to those who settle should we choose to build here. An escape from the world, as it had been centuries ago. Sitting to the west of the dead city of Boston, we can come across a small town. Abandoned for the most part, with its buildings boarded up and long since forgotten. The remains of a celebration for the Central Museum lie tattered in the main street. These decorations, now historical artifacts themselves. Today we're here in Concord, one of the first towns you'll probably come across in Fallout 4. The launching point for the Minuteman questline. We can meet Preston Garvey here, who is sure to put us to work as soon as he can. But instead of saving him and his little group of survivors, we can take a peek around the place they've found themselves in. It's interesting that this is the first location we've looked at that has a definitive real-world connection. Concord being a very real town in the US. It's a lot smaller in the game, of course, with the real town having a population of around 18,000. Approaching from the west, we can find our roads splitting and wrapping around either side of the town. A poor Brahmin lying in the middle, having fallen to some blood bugs. Looking up at these electrical wires, we can see that a tree has fallen on them, pulling this one to the ground. Hopefully the current had long since stopped before this happened. There's this small house, its lovely blue paint stripped by the dust and radiation. And within it, looks like it might have been someone's shelter for a while, with some caps tucked away in this oven and a chem box on the upper floor alongside a mattress. Perhaps a chem dealer set up here for a while, dealing with traders passing by who were looking to get a fix. Something to push them onward that extra few miles to Diamond City. This hole in the floor would have been a good way to spot potential intruders, our inhabitant perhaps not having the knowledge to craft traps. I wonder where they went, and how long ago it was they stayed here. The neighbour's house has been painted with the same blue colour and looks quite similar. The same company probably constructed these two houses, and being further from the town centre, were probably a little newer than those we find deeper in. I wonder if Concord would have ever connected with Sanctuary Hills had the bombs not dropped. There's a bus stop just down the road, where the townsfolk could wait to be carted up to the city for the day. Workers who perhaps didn't fancy living in the bustle, preferring that small town life. Through this alleyway, we can come across a small playground. Monkey bars, seesaws, a swing set, some picnic tables, and this cool flying saucer that doubles as a slide. It looks like someone pushed this swing, causing it to wrap over itself. A bored post-war raider, or a pre-war prank. There's these piles of tyres about the place. I wonder if this too was a post-war collection, or if the neighbourhood kids enjoyed playing in and around them, jumping from this tree onto the pile, letting the rubber break their fall. Over here, there's these two sinks. It could be a wall has fallen away, or these could have acted as drinking fountains, to help the kids stay hydrated as they played during the summer months. You'd be a lucky kid to live in this house, able to run down the back porch and instantly join your friends in the park. You can imagine the inhabitants of this place all sitting around this living area, watching a baseball game, the news, or that final emergency broadcast. Racing out the door, grabbing their coats and umbrella, trying to make it to the vault in time. Coming onto the main street, we can see this Fallon's department store. It looks as if they were having a sale, perhaps to coincide with the celebration of the Museum of Freedom, capitalizing on all the visitors to the town. The street is cracked and broken, with deep puddles forming in the larger divots. It could be from rain, or the town's waterways that have gone long without upkeep. Outside of the bank, we can find a plutonium well, one of the few dotted around the town. Probably a small generator of sorts. It would have used nuclear energy to power the town's electrical grid. They were definitely proud of this technology, for its name is engraved above. Perhaps it was a bit of a project by the local council, introducing the invention to a smaller region before adopting it for Boston itself. It might have been quite a new addition at the time the bombs dropped. I wonder if this was a popular implementation, the townsfolk perhaps proud that their home was on the forefront of innovation. But this is the Fallout universe. I'm sure there's something nefarious that lies at the bottom of all of this. There's the local drugstore just nearby. Looted for all it's worth, of course, but above we can find an ammunition box and tool case. With this huge hole blasted in the roof, you can imagine a sniper positioned here, watching the roads for intruders. Maybe there was once a time when there was an attempt to resettle Concord, turn it into a bit of a settlement, posting guards around to watch over the place. We don't find much more than temporary shelters and hovels, so there must be a hitch in any plan to make Concord safe. Perhaps the vicinity to raider groups, ghouls, or the creature that lives beneath the streets. It looks like this building was a cafe and inn, where the townsfolk could come in and get their cup of joe in the morning, sit down with their friends, co-workers, or family, and just watch the comings and goings of the street outside. Being an inn, it probably housed quite a few of the visitors who would come into town for the museum. Walking through an alleyway, we can come across a civic access hatch, which takes us under the town. Here, in the waterworks, moisture fills the air, and we can hear the distant chittering of a mirelurk. It looks like quite a few people tried to escape down here when the sirens sounded, becoming trapped as the earth burned above and the radiation seeped between the brickwork. It reminds me a bit of the well in Ocarina of Time, a dark otherworld just below an ordinary town. A skeleton here clutches some cereal, perhaps the only thing they had to sustain themselves in their final days. There's a dead raider here, just nearby a collection of chems. Perhaps this was our dealer we theorized about earlier, who managed to get on the wrong side of the mirelurk. Maybe they were the one who lived in this small shelter. Despite the years, we can still hear the creaks and groans of steam and water flowing through the pipes. Their old bones still getting the work done. And, in certain places, we can sense a deep rumble of something sleeping down here with us. Back above ground, we can continue down the street, coming across a hardware store. They had all kinds of things: oil, tubing, wires, and tools of all kinds. Someone stripped the mannequins long ago, scoring some new clothes, but there's still a Mr. Handy you could make use of, if you could find fuel for it. Across the street, we can find the Concord speakeasy, the local watering hole, and within, it looks like not everyone was desperate to race to the vaults. Hearing the bombs coming, these folk elected to sit back, light their cigars, and have a drink, awaiting their fate with calm, spending their last moments alongside friends, enjoying those last few minutes rather than clambering to save themselves. You get the sense they had a happy end, despite their lives being cut short. Up the stairs we can find some more rooms and... some people spent their last moments differently, but we're not here to judge. Perhaps it was a bit of alcohol-induced chaos, living it up at the edge of the apocalypse. We can find a soldier tucked away in this back room, a gun on the table beside them. Perhaps they deserted. Fearing the bombs, they abandoned their unit, holing up here alongside the patrons. Just behind the speakeasy, we can spy another enterable building, simply called a workhouse. Within, we can see that every floor has fallen away, creating a hollow tower of exposed rebar, clearly not built to withstand a nuclear blast. Up on one of the overhanging floors, we can find a skeleton, who maybe became trapped here when the floors fell away. Interestingly, there's a lit lantern right beside them. Maybe this skeleton isn't as old as it looks. Maybe a more modern survivor, consumed by a creature of the wastes, just leaving the bones. They must have walked across from up here, dropping down onto the balcony, perhaps thinking it was a good place to hunker down for the night. Up on the top floor, it looks like these two were having something of a small disagreement when the bombs hit, freezing them in death. Leaning against this safe, perhaps one final act of greed took place. Someone looking to loot all they could at the end of the world. Unless this was an act of revenge. It looks like this was the boss or supervisor's office. Maybe they weren't such a nice person, and the bombs coming simply gave this employee an excuse to take out their anger. Of course, in the middle of town we have the famed Museum of Freedom, the focal point of the town's celebration, and really the only thing that brings us here story-wise. Chock full of raiders, it's a quick little dungeon. We can enter to find ourselves in this huge lobby, the glass roof long since having shattered, leaving broken glass and rubble all about the place. Murals abound with revolutionary imagery. As we walk the halls, we can hear recreations of historical events in audio form, mannequins and displays retelling stories and history. It's an interesting feeling, the museum itself now just as historic as the items it held. Fluorescent lights still buzz above, a fusion core keeping the place lit. Weirdly, if we pull the fusion core out, the lights remain on. Maybe the generator stores power from the fusion core for a while in an emergency state before finally shutting down. The survivors of Quincy are held up in this little office, perhaps where the curator once worked, organising the collection and events. I'm sure they had their hands full with the celebration. On the roof, we can find a crashed vertibird and a log from Staff Sergeant Michael Daly, one of the soldiers riding the vertibird when it fell. The soldiers were picked off one by one until it was just Michael left. It mentions someone called Brzezinski who went AWOL and ran off. Maybe this is the identity of our soldier friend we found in the speakeasy. If so, he didn't get very far. But who knows what became of Michael? Hopefully he made it. Next door there's a lovely old church. Within it looks like some people chose to enter as the bombs fell, listening to the preacher hold one last service. One thing I love about the Fallout games is finding how different people reacted to the bombs through their remains. Such a different choice made than those over at the speakeasy. At the top of the church we get a nice view of the town, and can see how the vertibird actually clipped the church as it crash landed. Rounding up the surrounds, up on this hill overlooking the town we can find 3 houses. It looks like quite a nice area, so these were probably pretty pricey. A nice view of the Commonwealth all the way down to Boston. I'm sure it was once a lovely forested area that used to surround the place. It looks like this area, down on the eastern side of town, was a car park, or the start of a new housing development. There's lots of trucks and supplies, so perhaps they were extending out this direction a little bit. There's some dead raiders and settlers. It looks like they got into a bit of a fight, of which there were no winners. To the west there's this tall water tower, probably connected to the maze of systems we visited below the town. Concord's name is featured proudly upon it, letting all comers know exactly where they've landed. I don't think it'll do a good job of holding water anymore. And that's pretty much Concord. A small little place, but a great introduction to the urban exploration you'll be doing as the game progresses. The confusing ruins of brick and stone that wrap in on themselves, with raiders and creatures of all kinds around every corner. In the far west of the Commonwealth, we can come across a strange sight. A small bunker sits silently, its strong walls having withstood the nuclear fire. But, looking closer, it seems the bombs were not the only things the inhabitants of this place had to worry about. Today we're here at the Boston Mayoral shelter. Positioned between Sanctuary and the glowing sea, you might come across this dungeon as you make your way down to find Virgil. It would be a fairly secure place, if it weren't for this excavator that has winched the door from its hinges. The assailant hangs from the driver's compartment, perhaps having been shot by the military or the mayor's security team. Some trees have fallen, covering the bunker with their roots as the centuries passed. I wonder if this skeleton in the entryway was trampled by the crowd trying to get in. We can find some of them here, all having perished as they desperately clawed at the door. They managed to push through these soldiers, who probably did all they could to hold the fort, resorting to violence as the world collapsed around them. This one looks like he may have been defending from the vantage point of this window, before catching a bullet and slumping over. The lack of discarded weaponry probably means a wandering survivor plucked them up as they came through the area, either to defend themselves or to sell. It looks like the wind has been blowing through the door, carrying all kinds of rubbish, detritus and dust that is piled in the corner here. The place slowly being buried by time. But for now, we can still unearth the mayor's crimes. There's this small building off to the side, where the entrance to the bunker is controlled remotely. If there's no way to lock from the inside, then perhaps it was always the plan to leave someone out here as the bombs fell. A sacrificial lamb, in a way. And indeed, there are 3 skeletons we can find here. Unclear if they were killed by the bombs or the mob. It appears this person attempted to find cover behind this upturned shelf, or perhaps the shelf itself was thrown by the shockwave, pinning the poor worker to the wall. This workstation appears to do a lot more than just open and close the door. Perhaps this place wasn't always the mayoral bunker, and he retrofitted an older structure to include his safe haven. Or these devices could monitor for incoming nuclear bombs or radiation, allowing the workers here to call up the mayor the instant they detected anything. The angry mob likely also had a bit of forewarning, as I'm sure it would have taken a minute to get this excavator up here. Maybe there was a news report on the mayor having fled, raising the ire of these people. Within, we're met with what looks like a storage area, probably holding food, water, medicine, and all kinds of other supplies that could allow a person to remain down here for years. There's this skeleton sitting in a cart. I wonder if the mob placed them here, in some sort of desecration of their body, or if the soldier climbed within as one last attempt to hide before the doors were broken down. There's another soldier here, alongside a skeleton wearing a dress. This was probably one of the rioters, having fallen to the mayor's security. On the wall here, we have some pipes which could be managing airflow to the bunker, pumping out carbon dioxide and keeping the place safe for human habitation. Or they could be simple gas pipes. We come to learn that the mayor spared no expense in building this place, and certainly enjoyed the conveniences of modern life. Could he make do without a gas stove? Descending, we come across more bodies, and find ourselves in this dank tunnel. It seems the bunker above connects to another through this gullet bored in the earth. I wonder how they keep moisture from seeping through and collapsing the place. Or radiation, for that matter. The pipes and foundations surrounding us are rusted and bent. Who knows how many years this place has left? In this corner, we can find a soldier who perished, fending off the dark with their lantern here. It looks as if they were about to use this stealth boy to hide as the mob barreled through. Perhaps they couldn't quite activate it in time, or they weren't trained properly in its usage, having stolen it as all hell broke loose. It definitely seems like at least some radiation is seeping through from the earth above, as we can find these glowing mushrooms, mutated by the poisoned air. Coming to this huge chamber, we can find a generator, still whirring away to keep the place lit. It doesn't have an exposed fusion core we can take, unfortunately. The brickwork of these pillars looks quite old, older than the bunker at least. Perhaps this place was once a maze of old world cellars, maybe hiding supply during Prohibition. More glowing mushrooms surround us as we enter the lower bunker. The rioters perhaps damaging any radiation shielding this place once had. As we enter the lower bunker, a laser turret begins to fire upon us. It seems like that is what led to the deaths of these rioters here. With the door positioned like this, perhaps they ripped it off its hinges, using it as a shield to defend against the laser fire. But the turret's firepower must have proved too much. This terminal, just beyond the security gate, controls the turrets. A soldier must have activated them as they saw the mob coming down from the tunnel. This position must have been staffed quite regularly, as we can find some food scraps in this upturned bin, or trash, as they'd say in the Commonwealth. There's some cigarettes too. You can imagine the guard here taking a drag as they played some games on the terminal, waiting for the fateful day they'd actually have to do anything. I'm sure this attack wasn't in the job description. Continuing on, we can find another storage room and an elevator which can take us further underground. Exiting the elevator, we can see a shift in the air, a mirage as gas pushes the oxygen about. Clearly, there's some kind of leak. Certainly not compatible with life. Good thing the sole survivor seems to have lungs of steel. There's more supplies and another generator. Perhaps they have a few backups, in case one generator should fail. With the tools laying about, I wonder if this place housed materials for repair, should any part of the bunker fail. I wonder how many staff the mayor actually employed down here. There's something of a weapons locker, once manned by security personnel, who could unlock it with this terminal. Inside we have Radex, Radaway, ammunition and weapons. Perhaps a survival cache for whenever the inhabitants decided it was time to leave, or simply stored for security purposes, should the worst occur. It doesn't look like it was open during the riot. I wonder why. Perhaps there was no one here to man it, or there just simply wasn't enough time. It seems like someone gave up on plunging this toilet, ripping the whole thing off the wall instead. And workplace health and safety would have a field day down here, for the fire extinguisher has been replaced with a whiskey bottle. Probably don't want to pour that on a flame. Coming down some more stairs, we arrive at the actual living quarters themselves. It looks as if they would have had a guard sitting in this chair here, signing staff and personnel in and out as they came and went, keeping tabs on every mouth to feed. I'm not sure if their clipboard would have done much against the angry mob. Entering the complex actual, we find it decorated with this cozy wallpaper, now chipped and torn over time. This was once a dining area, where the family could have their meals. It's a fairly standard kitchen setup, but the pantry behind is huge. 2 rooms of countless supplies. I wonder if the mayor's family planned on cooking their own meals, or if they would employ a private chef who would be lucky enough to bunk down here with them. There is a corpse lodged all the way in the back here, next to a suitcase. In the suitcase, we can find a safe key. We do learn that the mayor left the key with one of his attendants. This must have been them. Did they plan on sleeping back here? In the living room, we can find one of the couches upturned, creating something of a barrier someone could hide behind as the rioters break through. Unclear as to why this small table was placed atop. There's an empty beer bottle on the couch. Someone must have been lounging and watching a film as the bombs dropped. In the next room, we can find a fireplace. I wonder how they funneled the smoke. Perhaps the flue leads to one of the pipes we found earlier, which pumps the smoke elsewhere. Interestingly, the doors leading downward have been ripped open. It seems the mob managed to get all the way down here. The crowd must have been huge if they were able to get a few past the turrets. It looks like they were going room to room, pulling open the doors in their furious search for the mayor and his family. This was the mayor's bedroom, where he and his wife slept. They must have had a newborn, for there's also a cot in here. It's fallen to the ground. Maybe the mayor's wife rushed in here to grab her baby, desperately trying to save her children as the attackers entered. It seems like either the mayor or his wife enjoyed comic books, for we can find an issue of Astoundingly Awesome Tales on their bedside. This one lets us regenerate 1 health point per minute, which is one of the buffs of all time. They had their own safe in here, which hides money, ammunition, and weapons, should they need them in a pinch. It seems the mayor's wife chose to flee, rather than to stay and combat the mob. Weirdly, despite the money pumped into this place, the mayor's bed is made up of these 2 dirty mattresses. Maybe they ran out of budget, just as they were planning the bedroom. Entering the mayor's bathroom, we can find a sorry sight. A skeleton, surrounded by empty beer bottles and hiding away in the tub. A radio joining it within. I think we can infer what happened here. And our suspicion is confirmed by the tape we find on the toilet seat, titled Mayor's Goodbye.
Hi, sweetheart. I'm sorry it had to end this way. I tried to build a place where our children could live comfortably. You know, I'm a family man, and know our children come first. I'd do anything for them, even at the expense of taxpayers' money. The mob has broken through, and it's only a matter of time before they reach the lower level. As a last resort to protect our family, I give you... well, I give you myself. Take my body to the people. Tell them I died a coward. Maybe they will leave you in peace. I left the key to the safe with one of the attendants. I forget his name. Anyway, goodbye, my darling. I love you and the children so much.
A small bit of introspection in his last moments. He knows why the people are here, and why they want to see him dead. But it seems his sacrifice was in vain, for his body still remains in the bathroom, the people never having laid eyes on it. Continuing on, we can come across the children's room. It seems the mayor and his wife had 4 kids, unless one of these beds was for the baby when it grew older. They have toys and board games and whimsical wallpaper. The mayor and his wife were trying to give their children a sense of normalcy, despite the nature of their new home. The next room over is where it looks like the mayor placed all his security staff. There's 4 bunks, as well as another locked weapon cache. One must have been sitting down to a meal and a drink as they made this holotape, titled Guard Update.
Found the mayor in the tub last night. Locked the door before the missus found him. Didn't want her to see him like that. I told her he'll be back soon and not to worry. In the meantime, I told her to take the children down to the utility room in the gym and wait for the all clear. Situation's getting out of control and we're outnumbered. It's only a matter of time before this place falls into chaos.
It seems then that this guard was responsible for the people never finding the mayor's body, choosing to retain his employer's dignity out of loyalty. This guard seemed to be holding on to an ideal of order, fearing the optics of a dead mare, despite the nature of the situation. Naivety, perhaps? Or a denial of the state of the world? The guards had their own bathroom, with a urinal right next to a toilet, for some reason. If you're already there, why not just use the toilet? Unless they were pretty comfortable with each other, trying awkwardly to avoid eye contact as they both did their business. Maybe this was the toilet that was ripped out of the wall, and the contractor just installed the new one wrong. Leaving this odd setup behind, we can come down to a locker room of sorts, where the guards or mayor's family could change into some sporting clothes to participate in some leisure activities, downing a few Nuka-Colas to get their energy up before making their way out to this indoor basketball court. You could play some music and get a game going, or set up these bases and do a spot of baseball. But as we have a look around this place and perhaps shoot a few hoops, we can hear sounds coming from the halls we just passed through. Metallic voices ring through the bunker, and we can spy the lanky frames of Institute synths. I wonder what has brought them down here. Perhaps the Institute, banking on the mayor having hoarded some old world information or data that could be useful to them. The turrets above do use the blue lasers of Institute weaponry, rather than the stereotypical red. It could be that the Institute retrofitted their own technology into them, and now uses the bunker as a safe house of sorts, where they can store synths and courses until their next mission. We can give the synths a stern talking to for interrupting our exploration, and continue into this utility area, which features workbenches and tool storage, probably to keep the gym in good nick. But in the corner, we can find another skeleton, and another holotape, this one titled, "Where Are You?"
Where are you, honey? I've been told to take the children to a safe place near the gym. Are you okay? The children are scared. This whole situation is my fault. I convinced you we needed all of this stuff if the worst ever happened. Now look at what's happening. All my fault. When you come back... Oh, hold on. Looks like the little one's hungry. Shh. It's okay, baby girl. Don't cry. It's okay. Mommy's here. Listen, when you come back, let's get out of here. Let them have this place. We don't need it. Love you, honey. See you soon.
It seems the mayor's wife never learned of his fate. She too perishing down here, waiting for him. We don't find any more remains, so I wonder what became of the children. It could be Bethesda just didn't want to model that. Or maybe they got away somehow. There's a huge hole in the side of the gym, the fallen concrete exposing the rebars that hold the place together. Walking through the exposed tunnel, we begin to see more human remains, but these ones are incomplete, as if something tore them apart. And indeed, we can find that something, which leaps down from this opening to the surface. A death claw has made its nest here, dragging prey down to feast upon. It's certainly a surprise should you explore the dungeon at a lower level. Downing the creature, we can have a look at its nest. Here lies a soldier, clutching their fat man and ammo box. I wonder if this was one of the bunker's guards, or if this poor guy fell through the hole, the death claw later sniffing out his remains and scoring a cool shelter in the process. I wonder if the Deathclaw was the one who created this hole, sniffing out the bodies that littered the bunker. We can use this big red pipe to escape the gym. Within is crawling with synths, but we do find some more skeletons. I wonder if these were some of the rioters who thought to flank the guards through the tunnel. With that, we can begin to make our way back up. The halls we passed now filled with synths, their yellow eyes peering at us from the shadows. And that's pretty much the Boston Mayoral shelter. A cool little dungeon, featuring a fun story of a man using his influence to try and save himself and his loved ones, only to damn his family to a worse fate. Thanks for watching. As always, let us know if there's any games, moments, or particular details you'd like us to take a look at. Shout out to our members: Speed of the Earth, Patrick Connaughton 4171, Renee, Najkula, Anna A2640, Fane Krios 8, and Nathan Armstrong 6085. Thank you all so much for your support. Subscribe for more oddities, odysseys, observations, open roads, opinions, and live streams. And we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.